Halo Campaign Evolved is a special experience. This has been one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and I'm not going to pretend that this isn't nostalgia-based, because the original Halo is probably one of my most cherished gaming experiences. But putting my rose-tinted glasses aside, this complete remake of the first Halo game is also a test for Halo Studios, to prove that they can in fact update the classic Halo to a modern experience with next-gen graphics and gameplay, and I gotta say they absolutely deliver here. The showcase level that really kind of accentuates what they've been able to achieve would be the Silent Cartographer. This is possibly Halo's most iconic mission, and holy crap, the visuals are nuts. Just look at the waves crashing in the water, the tracks in the sand left by the Warthog. It's stunning. Easy to argue that this is some of the best coastline rendering we've seen in a video game. Now, not all of Halo Campaign Evolved is this stunning. The corridor levels are locked into some of that older, simplistic geometry, and the devs really faithfully stayed true to a lot of the original layouts, keeping the gameplay intact, but it also means that some of those visuals just aren't going to stack up to the crazy epic outdoors. But when the devs are allowed to push the visuals, they're just incredible, some of the best I've seen. Now, Halo's first campaign is a dated experience, very much limited by the technology and techniques of 2001. But this remaster proves that the original story, the soundtrack, the general level design, and even the NPC AI can carry the experience forward into not just a passable game, but a downright fun campaign. This is also the first time that a Halo game is releasing on not just the Xbox, not just the PC, but also the PlayStation. It's the first time that PlayStation players get to play as Master Chief. This is the game that basically sold the Xbox and made people buy into that platform in the first place. And now PlayStation gamers get to play the flagship Xbox title. It sort of feels like a historic moment for gaming. Now, admittedly, it's been a while since I played the OG Halo, but I remember it well, and to be frank, there's no way a traditional remaster would have held up for a modern audience, and Halo Studios, in my opinion, made some very good choices to keep the experience relevant and, most importantly, fun. Now, firstly, the experience has been upgraded to Unreal Engine 5 instead of using their own proprietary engine. And I think the visuals really speak for themselves as to what this engine upgrade has done. Many big studios are switching away from their proprietary engines for Unreal, and I find it hard to blame them. Not only has Unreal become an incredibly capable and industry-leading engine when it comes to visuals and gameplay features, but it's frankly just become a lot cheaper now for studios to hire people with Unreal skills versus training them up on a custom proprietary engine and then also having to have your own engine team that builds and supports that engine. It just becomes an economic no-brainer for most studios. It's entirely possible that Unreal Engine won't be the long-term future for most developers, with free engines like Godot making some serious headway as of late, but it's certainly one of the biggest players in modern game development, and Halo Campaign Evolved is a compelling argument for any studio considering to make the switch. Now, part of changing engines means that the entire experience is rebuilt from the ground up. This means they built a full Halo game without porting stuff over or building off of previous technology. They may have kept damage values and animation timing and level layouts from the original game, but those are just a few measurements and numbers translated into an otherwise completely brand new experience. And you can see along the way where the devs chose to improve things. OG Halo has a lot of older, more clunky controls by modern standards. This version has a sprint for Master Chief, which feels okay, perhaps slightly out of place. Most weapons can do an optical zoom, including the assault rifle, which has been around in more of the modern Halo games. There's a handful of new weapons for this game that did appear in later Halo games, but being injected here for some more variety is actually quite nice. And the enemy AI has been significantly updated. It still feels very similar to the original AI, which is goofy when it needs to be and challenging when it needs to be, but in general, it felt like the enemies were moving and behaving like I remembered them. and the core mechanics that need to hit absolutely do hit. Grenades are just as satisfying as before. Lobbing a perfect nade into a group of enemies to send them flying is still just iconic. Watching grenades chain react into chaotic, messy mega explosions is still just as awesome. Now, admittedly, I was expecting to sort of blast through this campaign without much of a challenge. I played it on heroic, and I thought I was just going to breeze through it all, but actually many of the parts of the original game that I remember being very challenging were just as challenging this time around. Being stuck in a small room with 2 hunters is terrifying, maybe even more terrifying than it used to be, especially now that their weak points aren't quite as weak as I remember them being. And failing on an elite takedown or an elite sneaking up behind you will still one-shot melee you. So there's a lot of things you gotta look out for, and I would expect to die a bit in this campaign if you're coming in as nonchalant as I did. Now, the game's cutscenes have also gone through some pretty substantial improvements. Aside from the massively upgraded cinematic visuals, there's added depth to the dialogue, better details just to see around the environment, and frankly, a cleaner lead up into the narrative experience. I felt like I was getting a few more important details for the backstory than the original game provided, which I enjoyed. No complaints from me, though there is of course the purest angle to consider. When you change or add lines to Master Chief, you're messing with decades worth of lore and vibes. There's nothing quite as offensive as some of the changes that, say, George Lucas made to the original Star Wars trilogy. I'm talking about Darth Vader screaming no here. But I could also see some people having some pushback, at least from a purity standpoint. Now, other areas of the game that used to be cutscenes have been turned into real-time sequences, which is actually pretty cool. The original Halo's hardware and engine limitations probably required cutscenes to activate when loading new levels. And in Unreal Engine 5, it's clearly way more capable, so having a clean transition while, say, beaming up to the alien ship now is kind of a cool change. And the devs took the opportunity to actually update some of the more boring levels of the campaign with less windy and mirroring corridors. Again, due to engine limitations of the first game, many game assets were recycled and reused to reduce RAM usage and whatnot, so some of the original level design was just really weak in areas, and it's cool to see them improve it without losing the feeling of the original game. In fact, I would even say they could have gone further, but they probably didn't due to fear of backlash on changing too many things. Now, this is a first impressions video, and I haven't played through the prequel missions that were added, but I've heard that they're competent and they add some fun narrative sequences. There's also all kinds of achievements and unlocks, some of which that do cool things, like unlock a third-person mode, but I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of those. But if we're talking about the overall value of this game, there is a very obvious critique here that's basically stated in the name. It's campaign and no PvP multiplayer. You can co-op, which again is an iconic experience, but for anyone wishing that they can load this up and play the classic capture the flag on Blood Gulch, well, you're kind of out of luck here. And this is an important point because the original Halo's multiplayer was huge for its time. Honestly, you could even say that it played a major role, possibly the biggest role, in making the console FPS a highly competitive and accessible experience. So it does feel weird to see such an important component of this game just completely left out. That said, I also understand why they left it out. Truthfully, if they had added the full multiplayer experience to this game, the servers would be dead in a month or less. Classic Halo is basically an arena shooter, and as much nostalgia as I have for arena shooters, they just don't hold water in today's shooter battle royale tactical FPS market anymore. If the choice when making this game was to go all out for the campaign or split the funds between the campaign and multiplayer, well, I would have made the same choice and just focused on the campaign. You can literally play Halo Infinite online for free. It's a very high production, full featured experience, so I'm sort of in agreement that it doesn't need to be attempted in this game as well. It would ultimately just compete with the free to play Halo multiplayer offering and probably lose out to it. That said, the price for this game also isn't super cheap at $50 for a single player or single player co-op experience that you can finish in basically a day. Sure, it's not $60 or $70, but it's also not as low as $40. I mean, Microsoft knows what they're doing here. Either you want this classic goodness or you don't, and 10 or 20 bucks probably won't affect the decision for most of the core buyers, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a good price drop on this game in the near future. Now, all that said, one of the main draws of this whole experience for me personally is that I'm now really excited about playing this campaign evolved with my son in co-op mode. Now he has the opportunity to play Halo and experience many of the good vibes from the original game without having to experience it through the old clunky graphics and controls. It's hard to explain to the new generation kind of what this game meant at the time of its release. And frankly, it's never going to be possible to exactly replicate that experience for somebody else. But at least Campaign Evolved gets about as close as you could to bringing such a classic experience back into a modern package for all gamers to enjoy. But I want to know what you guys think. This is clearly a heavily weighted in nostalgia impressions video from me. I'd be curious to hear from somebody who maybe didn't play the original campaign when it first came out, or doesn't have such a big connection to the Halo narrative. Does this game deliver it? Does it bring up some good vibes for you, or maybe not at all? Let me know in the comments. And up next, if you want to see another game being developed in Unreal Engine 5, check out my latest devlog for Sea-Beams, a spaceship action RPG that I've been building for over 2 years and been enjoying showing all the challenges and successes of learning game development. I think you guys will like it. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.